My name is Robert Bob Mitchell. I'm 64 years old, and the day I bought the Oak Ridge Ranch in Montana for $5 million was the day I decided my daughter Beatrice would learn the hardest lesson of her life. It was a Tuesday in April when I signed the papers at the lawyer's office in the historic downtown with the bells of the old county courthouse ringing at noon. 2,000 acres of prime Montana pastureland with century-old ponderosa pines, a grand turn-of-the-century ranch house, and the best land for raising rodeo stock in all of Montana. My phone rang before the ink was even dry on the contract. It was Beatrice, my only daughter, who hadn't called me in 8 months, not since my birthday, when she made it clear that my $100 gift was pathetic for someone of her social standing. "Dad!" Her voice was dripping with that fake sweetness she only used when she wanted something. "I just heard through the Hendersons that you bought Oak Ridge, $5 million. Wow, the old man was holding out on me. The Hendersons were the old owners. Of course they'd tell half of Bozeman. What they didn't tell her was that I paid in cash in a single wire transfer. It's an investment for my retirement," I answered dryly. "How wonderful. Look, divine coincidence, we were planning to go to a rustic chic lodge with friends this weekend. But since you have this ranch, we'll just come there. There are 20 of us, the creme de la creme of New York City. I need you to have everything ready. A full barbecue for everyone, some top-shelf Napa Valley Cabernets, the heated pool, the rooms with high thread count sheets. You know the standard we're accustomed to." She didn't ask me, she informed me. "Alex is so excited," she continued, referring to her husband, that arrogant banker who had humiliated me at every family gathering. "We'll finally have a decent place to bring the partners from the bank. We'll be there Friday night. Oh, and Dad, please buy yourself some decent clothes. We don't want you looking like the hired help." The rage I felt was volcanic, but my voice stayed calm. "I understand perfectly, sweetheart. Everything will be ready." "It better be. I already bragged to everyone about the family ranch. Don't make me look bad like that time at my wedding." My wedding. The one I wasn't invited to because, according to her, I would clash with the important guests. She hung up without saying goodbye. I stared at the phone. Then I looked out the lawyer's window toward the main square. 40 years working as a large animal vet, getting up at 4 a.m. to handle calving season, saving entire herds from epidemics, sleeping in barns during emergencies. 40 years saving every dollar, while Beatrice grew up thinking we were poor because I insisted she learn the value of hard work. How naive I was. The lawyer, Mr. Carlson, was looking at me curiously. He was an older man. He had known my father. "Bob, are you sure about this purchase? It's a lot of money for a simple country vet, isn't it?" I finished with a smile. "Mr. Carlson, did you know my father left me $30 million when he died 2 years ago?" The man nearly choked on his coffee. My father wasn't the small-time rancher everyone thought he was. He owned the largest meatpacking consortium in the upper Midwest. He kept it a secret his whole life, using shell companies. I inherited everything, but I kept the secret. I wanted to see if my daughter would love me if I was poor. "And," asked Mr. Carlson, "you already have your answer. Now, I need you to recommend the best rodeo stock contractor in the region. I need 20 prime specimens for this weekend." 20 bucking bulls? But that's a fortune, and besides, it's incredibly dangerous. I also need professional wranglers, the best, and security cameras all over the property. Everything legal, everything documented. Mr. Carlson studied me for a moment. Then he smiled. "My nephew handles the meanest rodeo bulls in Montana, and I know the wranglers you need. May I ask what you're planning?" "To give my daughter and her friends an unforgettable experience, one that teaches them that not everything in life can be demanded with a snap of their fingers." I left the lawyer's office with the keys to Oak Ridge and a plan. I drove to the ranch in my old beat-up Ford pickup, the same one Beatrice said embarrassed her. The property was magnificent, the main house with its 20 bedrooms, stables for 100 horses, a full-size rodeo arena, and miles of open range. That night, as I ate dinner alone in the manor house's huge kitchen, I remembered the day everything changed with Beatrice. It was when she turned 18 and went off to college at NYU. Her new friends were the children of CEOs, politicians, old money types. Suddenly, her large animal vet father wasn't good enough. She started making up stories about me, avoiding me, being ashamed. When she married Alexander Montgomery, the son of bankers, she didn't even invite me to the wedding. I found out from the local paper. Orphan Beatrice Mitchell. Marries Montgomery heir, the headline said. Orphan. She had socially killed me. Friday was in 3 days. I called Jack, the lawyer's nephew. I need 20 of your best bulls, the meanest but not killers. I want to scare them, not maim them. That'll cost you $100,000, Mr. Mitchell. Perfect. And I need your best wranglers hidden, ready to intervene if necessary. No one is to be seriously injured. Understood. Anything else? Yes. I want cameras recording everything. Every word, every scream, every confession they make when they think they're going to die. I spent the next few days setting it all up. I hired a security firm to install hidden cameras. I prepared a safe room in the cellar with bolts on the inside. I left warning signs all over the house. Caution: wild rodeo stock loose on property. On Friday afternoon, when everything was ready, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine. The bulls were in the pens, waiting. The wranglers were hidden strategically. The cameras were rolling. My phone rang at 7. Dad will be there in an hour. I hope everything is perfect. Oh, it is, Beatrice. I guarantee it'll be a weekend you'll never forget. And as the sun set over the Montana plains, I unlatched the gates to the pens. While I waited for Beatrice and her entourage to arrive, my mind inevitably drifted back to the years that brought us to this moment. It all started when Carmen, my wife, died of leukemia. Beatrice was just 8. I remember her confused little face at the funeral, asking me why Mommy wouldn't wake up. I promised her that day that I would be both father and mother to her, that she would never want for anything. How easy it is to make promises when you don't know the price you'll pay. The first few years were beautiful in their hardship. We lived in a modest apartment on the outskirts of Bozeman. I worked as a large animal vet, servicing ranches all over the county. I'd get up at 4 in the morning, leave Beatrice with our neighbor Mrs. Henderson, and often return after midnight, covered in mud and manure. But always, no matter the hour, I'd go into her room to kiss her forehead. "You smell like cows," she'd murmur, half asleep, and giggle. "The cows send their love to the princess," I'd reply. Weekends were ours. I'd take her out to the countryside, teach her about animals, about nature. Beatrice was bright, curious, full of life. I remember one day she must have been about 10. She helped me with a difficult birth of a mare. She wasn't scared, not squeamish. When the foal was finally born, she cried with joy. "Dad, can I be a vet like you?" "You can be anything you want, sweetheart. The world is yours." If only I'd known how she would interpret those words. When she turned 12, my financial situation improved considerably, though she never knew it. My father, whom I believed to be a simple rancher, revealed the truth about his business. It wasn't the time to tell Beatrice. I wanted her to grow up with values, not privileges. We continued to live modestly, but I made sure she had the best education. I enrolled her in a private prep school, telling her she'd gotten a scholarship for her excellent grades. It was a lie. I paid the full tuition, but I wanted her to feel she had earned it. That's where it all started to change. Her new classmates were the children of the Montana elite, energy tycoons, landowners, politicians. At first, Beatrice stayed true to her roots. She'd defend me when her friends made fun of my old truck. "My dad saves lives," she'd tell them proudly. "What does yours do besides count money?" But social pressure is a slow-acting poison. By her 15th birthday, she didn't want me picking her up at the school's front gate. "Dad, I can just get a ride with the girls. You don't have to come. But I always pick you up on Fridays. It's just, your truck is so loud and you always come in your dirty boots." My friends, no, I didn't know, or I didn't want to. Her teenage years were a cold war. Me working more and more to pay for her growing list of necessities, her pulling further and further away. When she was accepted into NYU to study business administration, I thought it was my greatest achievement. I didn't know I was financing my own social death sentence. She moved to New York. At first, she came home every weekend, then every other, then once a month, then only on holidays, and finally, only when she needed money. "Dad, All my roommates have. Dad, there's a study trip to London. Dad, I need a new laptop. I always said yes. I sold land I had inherited, worked overtime, even took out loans I didn't need just to maintain the fiction that money was tight, but sufficient. I wanted her to value every dollar. When she was 23, she brought Alex Montgomery home. Dad, this is my boyfriend. Alex looked at me the way you look at a servant. He shook my hand like he was touching something unpleasant. Throughout the whole dinner, he made subtly disparaging remarks. What a quaint apartment, Robert. Very authentic. Must be tough working with animals all day. The smell must be hard to get off. Beatrice told me you studied veterinary medicine back in the 70s. Times have certainly changed, haven't they? Beatrice didn't defend me once. In fact, she laughed at his comments. When they left, I cried for the first time since Carmen's death, not for me, but for the daughter I had lost without even realizing it. The final blow came with her wedding. One day, Beatrice showed up with a diamond ring that cost more than my truck. Dad, I'm getting married. I hugged her, happy for her despite everything. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me all about the plans. Her face changed. About that. Dad, Alex's family is very traditional. They're paying for everything. And, well, it's a very exclusive wedding. And, Dad, don't be offended, but you just don't fit in. The Montgomerys have an image to maintain. Their partners, the senators who will be attending. I just don't want you to feel uncomfortable. You're telling me you don't want me at your wedding. It's for the best, for everyone. I'll send you pictures. I left her New York apartment, feeling like Carmen would be spinning in her grave. I got in my truck and drove the long hours back to Montana in complete silence. The wedding was at the Breakers in Palm Beach, Florida. I was in Bozeman, sitting in the bar where Carmen and I first met, drinking alone while my only daughter got married. The bartender, Mac, who'd known me for years, put his hand on my shoulder. Bob, kids get lost sometimes, but they can find their way back. Not this one, Mac. This one already chose her path. After the wedding, Beatrice practically disappeared from my life. Calls on my birthday and Christmas, annual visits that lasted exactly 2 hours. I had 2 grandchildren that I only saw in Facebook photos. Alex had convinced Beatrice that I was a bad influence on the children. 2 years ago, my father died. In his will, the surprise, $30 million meatpacking empire, properties all over the Midwest. The old fox had hidden it his entire life, living like a modest rancher while building a fortune. For my son, Robert, the letter said, who understood that money doesn't make the man. Use it wisely, and don't let it change you like it changed so many others. I didn't tell Beatrice anything. To her, her grandfather had died as poor as he lived. And now, as I watched the headlights of 5 luxury cars approach on the dirt road with 20 rodeo bulls loose in the darkness of the range, I wondered if Carmen would forgive me for what I was about to do. Alex's Mercedes was the first to cross the main gate. Behind it, a BMW, an Audi, another Mercedes, the cars of important people who came to enjoy my ranch for free. From my hiding spot in the attic, I watched them get out, laughing, joking about the old man and his unexpected inheritance. He probably spent it all on this ranch, I heard Alex say. Typical of people with no class, one stroke of luck and they blow it all. Beatrice laughed. Then the first bellow echoed in the night, deep, primitive, threatening. The car headlights partially lit the driveway to the main house, but beyond, where the darkness swallowed the prairie, the bellows multiplied. From my position in the attic, with the security camera monitors in front of me, I could see Beatrice's 20 guests frozen in the entryway. "What was that?" asked a blonde woman in a dress that probably cost my monthly salary back in my vet days. "Livestock," Alex answered dismissively. "The old man must have cows. How quaint." If only he knew that what I had were 20 prime rodeo bulls from the best stockyards in Montana, each valued at $5,000, selected specifically for their aggression. But my mind wasn't entirely in the present. As I watched my daughter lead her guests toward the house, I remembered the exact day our relationship truly died. It wasn't the wedding, no. It was 3 years later, the day she publicly rejected me in the cruelest way possible. It was the baptism of my granddaughter, Sophia, my first grandchild. I found out by chance from an announcement in the local paper. Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery Mitchell celebrate the baptism of their firstborn. I didn't even know she had been born. I drove to New York without thinking. I bought the best gift I could find, a small gold locket like the one her mother would have wanted to give her. I arrived at St. Thomas Church on Fifth Avenue just as the ceremony was beginning. I tried to enter discreetly through a side door, but Alex saw me. He whispered something to a man in a suit. Private security. The guy approached me as I walked down the side aisle. "Sir, this is a private ceremony. I'm the girl's grandfather, Robert Mitchell." The man spoke into an earpiece. Then he took my arm. "I've been asked to escort you outside." "I'm sorry?" It was then that Beatrice stood up from the front row, holding my granddaughter, and walked toward me. For a moment, my heart filled with hope. "Dad," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you weren't invited. Please don't make a scene. There are important people here. I just wanted to meet my granddaughter." "Your granddaughter doesn't need to meet you. She has real grandparents, with prestige, with something to offer her besides the smell of a barn." The silence in the church was deafening. 200 people stared at me. I saw pity in some faces, amusement in others. "Beatrice, I'm your father." "No," she cut me off coldly. "You're the man who gave me life, nothing more. A real father would have known how to give me more than just embarrassment. Now leave, or I'll have you forcibly removed." I left the church, the locket still in my pocket. On the steps, an elderly woman touched my shoulder. It was Alex's mother, a New York high society woman. "I'm so sorry," she said in a low voice. "We don't all think that way. But my son and his wife, they have their priorities." "Are my grandchildren at least okay?" "They are beautiful children, but they're not being raised by them, but by the nannies. Beatrice is very busy with her social life." That day I drove back to Montana and made a decision. If my daughter considered me dead, then dead I would be. I stopped trying to contact her. I stopped sending gifts that were returned. I ceased to exist for her, until my father died and I inherited his fortune. It's funny how money works miracles. Suddenly, I started getting calls from unknown numbers that turned out to be friends of Beatrice, feeling out my situation. Alex even sent me an invitation to a charity event for his bank in case I wanted to contribute. But I waited. I invested silently. I bought properties under shell companies. I moved the money with the cunning my father had taught me without my knowing. And when the perfect moment came, I bought Oak Ridge. The sound of breaking glass brought me back to the present. On the monitors, I saw someone had tripped over a planter. The 20 guests were now in the inner courtyard of the house, still unaware that they were sharing the property with 20 rodeo bulls. "Dad!" Beatrice yelled from below. "Dad, where are you? The house is dark." I had cut the power to the common areas, leaving only the emergency lights, enough to not get killed, not enough to feel safe. "The old fossil must be asleep," I heard Alex say. "Beatrice, your father is a disaster. Look at this place, it looks abandoned." "I'll talk to him tomorrow," my daughter replied. "If he can't maintain the ranch, we'll sell it and put him in a home." Put me in a home? Interesting. I wondered if that was the plan all along. A new bellow, this time much closer, made everyone fall silent. On the main monitor, I could see one of the bulls, a magnificent 1,500-pound black specimen, slowly approaching the inner courtyard. That is not a cow," someone whispered. They were right. It was definitely not a cow. The bull snorted, kicked the ground. The car headlights created dramatic shadows on its muscles. It was magnificent and terrifying. "Run!" someone shouted, and chaos erupted. 20 people running in different directions, in the dark, in high heels and expensive suits, while the bellows multiplied around them. The cameras captured it all, the panic, the screams, the falls. I saw Beatrice trip on her designer dress, falling into the mud. Alex, the great banker, ran right past her toward the house, leaving her behind. So much for true love. "Alex, help me!" she screamed. "Save yourself!" he yelled back, already inside the house and locking the door behind him. A second bull appeared from the opposite side, cutting off the escape route for several guests. The wranglers, hidden in strategic positions, kept the animals moving, but without allowing them to actually attack. It was a ballet of controlled terror, a dance of measured panic. "Dad!" Beatrice was screaming now with genuine terror. "Dad, please help us!" Funny how I suddenly became her father again when she needed help. I picked up the walkie-talkie and contacted Jack, the head wrangler. Phase 1 complete. Keep them like this for another hour. Then guide the bulls toward the west pasture. Make it look like they're leaving on their own. Understood, Mr. Mitchell. Are you sure about this? I looked at my daughter on the monitor, muddy, crying, abandoned by her millionaire husband, surrounded by friends who were only thinking of saving themselves. Completely sure. It's time they learn that not everything in life is served on a silver platter. The night had barely begun, and the most important lessons were yet to come. Because what Beatrice didn't know was that the cameras weren't just recording video, they were also recording audio. And what her dear friends were saying about her as they fled would be very, very revealing. From my privileged position in the attic, I watched as the panic gradually transformed into something more calculated. The guests had managed to take refuge in different parts of the house and stables. The bulls, masterfully controlled by the hidden wranglers, maintained a perimeter that prevented them from reaching their cars but without attacking directly. It was a perfect siege. On the main monitor, I could see the living room where 10 people had taken refuge, including Beatrice and her best friend, Victoria. What they didn't know was that this room had the best hidden microphones in the entire house. "Your father is insane," Victoria said, trying to wipe mud off her Versace dress. "I always said it'd be. A senile old man with delusions of grandeur." "I don't understand where he got the money," Beatrice replied, trembling. "He was a broke nobody his whole life." If only they knew the truth. My father, Augustus Mitchell, had been a genius. For 50 years, everyone in Bozeman knew him as a modest rancher with 100 head of cattle. What nobody knew was that he had built a meatpacking empire that spanned half the country, all through proxies and shell companies. "Never brag about what you have, Robert," he used to tell me when I was a kid. "Money shouts, wealth whispers, but true fortune remains silent." When he died, his lawyer, who turned out to be one of the most powerful men in the country, summoned me to New York, not to an office, but to an entire building on Park Avenue. "Your father owned this," he told me, gesturing to the 20-story building. "And this," he showed me a binder full of deeds, slaughterhouses, distribution companies, butcher chains, export businesses, and this, bank accounts in Switzerland, Luxembourg, Andorra, $30 million liquid, the lawyer continued, properties valued at another $50 million, companies generating $10 million annually in net profit. Your father built all this selling calves for $50, while everyone thought he was poor." Why, was all I could ask. Because your father understood that true power doesn't need to be displayed. He left specific instructions for you. Let Robert decide if he wants to be rich in silence or poor with applause. I chose silence, and it was that silence that allowed me to see my daughter's true nature. A scream brought me back to the present. On another monitor, I saw the stable where Alex had hidden with 5 of his banker friends. The conversation was revealing. "We should leave as soon as we can," one said. "This old man is crazy." "Not before we make him sign," Alex replied. "Beatrice promised me she'd convince him to put the ranch in our names." "You think the old man has more money?" "He has to. Nobody buys a $5 million property in cash without having at least triple that saved up." "And if he doesn't want to sign?" Alex laughed. "That's what dementia care homes are for. A couple of bought medical signatures and the old man disappears. Beatrice already has the contacts." I saved that specific clip. Perfect evidence of conspiracy for fraudulent incapacitation. In the living room, the conversation had taken another turn. "B, do you remember when your father came to your wedding?" someone asked. "He didn't come," Beatrice replied curtly. "Yes, he did. I saw him in the garden of the breakers, behind the trees. He stood there the whole ceremony, watching from afar. He left when the reception started." My heart skipped a beat. Someone had seen me that day. "Seriously?" Beatrice seemed genuinely surprised. "My mother spoke to him," the woman continued. "She asked him why he didn't come in. He said he didn't want to ruin your perfect day with his presence, that he just wanted to see you happy from a distance." Silence in the living room. "He was at your master's graduation too," another guest added, "and at the hospital when your children were born. Always from a distance, always in the shadows." "That's creepy," said Victoria. "It's creepy," Beatrice agreed. "Or it's love," the man replied. "A love that doesn't demand recognition." Beatrice didn't answer. On the monitor, I saw her put her hands to her face. It was 3 in the morning when I decided to make my first appearance, not directly, but through the PA system I had installed. "Good evening," my voice echoed throughout the property. "This is Robert Mitchell, owner of Oak Ridge Ranch. I regret to inform you that due to a staff error, some of our rodeo stock is loose on the property. For your safety, please remain where you are until sunrise. The animals will retreat at daylight." "Dad!" Beatrice screamed. "Dad, get us out of here!" "Wranglers will arrive in the morning," I continued, ignoring her screams. "In the meantime, there is water and food in the various rooms where you have taken refuge. Consider it a rural tourism experience. Extreme edition." "You crazy old man," yelled Alex. "When I get out of here, I'll sue you into the street." "All conversations are being recorded for security and insurance purposes," I added calmly, "including your interesting chat about having me fraudulently committed, Mr. Montgomery." The silence was deafening. "Sweet dreams," I concluded, and turned off the system. The next few minutes were chaotic. I watched on the monitors as the groups argued, blamed each other, and revealed their true opinions. Beatrice's important friends were showing their true colors. "I always said marrying Beatrice was a mistake," said the wife of one of the bankers. "No real family, no pedigree. Alex only wanted her for her looks, and now it turns out her father is a rich, senile sadist." In the stable, Alex was on the phone with his lawyer, screaming instructions to prepare lawsuits, incapacitation orders, whatever it took. And in the living room, Beatrice was crying. For the first time in years, I saw her cry for real, not the crocodile tears she used to get things. "Maybe I deserve this," I heard her murmur. "Don't say that," Victoria consoled her, though without much conviction. "I treated him so badly, and he was still there, in the shadows, watching over me without me even knowing." At 5 in the morning, as the sky began to lighten, I gave the signal to the wranglers. With professional expertise, they began to herd the bulls toward the corrals, making it look natural, as if the animals were simply deciding to retreat with the daylight. When the last bull disappeared, I came down from the attic. I put on my best suit, the one I'd bought for my father's funeral. I combed my hair, shaved, and put on the cologne Carmen had given me for our last anniversary. When I stepped out into the main courtyard, 20 exhausted, dirty, and terrified people were staring at me. In the center, Beatrice, unrecognizable under the mud and tears. "Good morning," I said calmly. "I hope you enjoyed your stay at Oak Ridge. Breakfast is served in the main dining room. After that, we need to talk about the future." Alex took a threatening step forward. "You damned old man, you're going to pay for this." "No," I replied, looking him straight in the eye. "The one who is going to pay is you. Because I have 8 hours of very interesting conversations recorded about fraud, about conspiracy, about adultery." I glanced at a certain lady who turned pale. "About many things that I'm sure your partners at the bank will find revealing." I turned to Beatrice. "As for you, daughter, we have a conversation to finish, one that's been waiting for 20 years. Let's rewind 3 days, to the exact moment I decided this would be the definitive lesson. After hiring Jack and his wranglers, I needed to make sure everything was perfectly legal, and more importantly, perfectly documented. My first visitor was Luke Harrison, the best criminal lawyer in Montana, a man who owed me a favor since I'd saved his champion mare from certain death 15 years ago. "Bob, what you're asking for is..." He reviewed my plans in the ranch study. "Unusual, but not illegal," I replied. "The bulls are mine. The property is mine. The warning signs will be everywhere. If they choose to ignore them, technically correct, but ethically questionable. Luke, my daughter and her husband are planning to have me fraudulently committed to steal my money. I have the proof. This is preventive self-defense." Luke studied the documents I had gathered. Text messages between Beatrice and Alex discussing what to do with the old man, contacts with doctors willing to sign false dementia diagnoses, detailed plans to take control of my assets. With this, you could sue them directly. No, I need them to learn more than a legal lesson. I need them to understand what it feels like to be helpless, at the mercy of others. Luke nodded slowly. "All right, but we'll do it my way. Signed contracts with the wranglers including liability clauses, accident insurance, and official notification to the local sheriff about rodeo stock exercises during the weekend." The next step was technology. I hired Mike Anderson, a security expert who had worked for the government. I need every inch of this property covered, I told him. Audio and video, forensic quality. Expecting trouble? Expecting revelations. Mike worked for 2 full days. He installed 64K night vision cameras and 40 directional microphones, all connected to a central server in the attic with a cloud backup. This is better than what they have in Vegas casinos, he said, admiring his own work. Perfect. I need everything to be admissible in court if it comes to that. On Thursday afternoon, I gathered the 15 wranglers Jack had selected. These were rough men of the land who knew bulls like their own children. Gentlemen, I began, this weekend we're doing something unique. It's not a rodeo, it's not a traditional roundup. It's a lesson. The bulls will scare, but they will not attack. You will make sure of that. Mr. Mitchell, said Paco, the most senior wrangler, with all due respect, why are you doing this? I told them my story, everything, from Carmen's death to Beatrice's current contempt. When I finished, several had tears in their eyes. My daughter did the same to me, one said. Married some city slicker from Denver, and now she doesn't know me. Mine didn't even invite me to meet my grandkids, added another. Then you understand, I said. This isn't revenge, it's education. The wranglers nodded. On the range, hard lessons are sometimes the only ones that stick. On Friday morning, the bulls arrived. Jack had exceeded my expectations, 20 magnificent specimens, each with its own personality. This one is Cloudbreaker. He introduced a 1,500-pound black bull. He looks mean, but he's noble. He'd never charge unless cornered. Perfect. This other one is Professor. Real smart. He knows how to intimidate without doing harm. One by one, I met my teachers, because that's what they would be. Professors who would teach 20 privileged people the meaning of true fear and true respect. That afternoon, I prepared the house. I put up the warning signs myself. Danger, rodeo stock loose. Do not exit house after dark. Property protected by bucking bulls. I put them in visible places, but where I knew Beatrice and her friends, in their arrogance, would either ignore them or not see them in the dark. I also prepared something special. In each guest room, I left sealed envelopes addressed to each guest. Inside, information I had gathered on every one of them, nothing illegal. All public information, but presented in a revealing way. For Alex's banker friend, clippings about his bank's investigation for money laundering. For the businessman's wife, photos of her entering a hotel with her personal trainer. For Victoria, Beatrice's best friend, documents about her father's fraudulent bankruptcy, which she had helped conceal. Each envelope was a time bomb set to explode during their confinement. At 5 p.m., I did my final inspection. The bulls were in the temporary pens, invisible from the driveway. The wranglers in their positions dressed in black, invisible in the night. The cameras, recording. The stage was set. I sat on the porch with a glass of Napa Cabernet, the same kind my father kept for special occasions. Forgive me, Carmen, I spoke to the sky. But our daughter needs to remember where she comes from. The sun was beginning to set when my phone rang. It was Jack. Mr. Mitchell, my men report 5 luxury cars approaching. We are all in position, running like a Swiss watch. The bulls, restless but controlled, were ready for their debut. I took the last sip of wine and headed to the attic. My command center was ready, 20 monitors showing different angles of the property, controls for the lights, the sound system, everything. On the main screen, I saw the cars approaching, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, the cars of people who had never had to really work for them. Let the show begin, I murmured. With one switch, I turned off the main lights at the entrance, leaving only the emergency ones, enough to create an atmosphere, not enough to feel safe. With another switch, I released the latches on the pens, not all at once, but one by one, spaced out. The bulls would come out curious, not aggressive. On the monitors, I saw Beatrice get out of her car, looking around in disgust. Typical of Dad, I heard her say. He can't even keep the lights on. If only she knew the lights worked perfectly. I was just controlling which ones and when. Alex approached her. Remember the plan. Be nice tonight. Tomorrow you convince him to sign the papers. And if he doesn't want to? That's why we brought Dr. Ramirez. A diagnosis of senile dementia and problem solved. I looked at another monitor. Sure enough, among the guests there was a man with a medical bag. They had come to declare me incompetent in my own home. The first bellow echoed in the distance. On the monitor, I saw everyone freeze. "He must have cows," someone said nervously. "Oh, my dear guest, if you only knew. What I have are 20 professors about to give you the lesson of your life." Cloudbreaker was the first to appear, emerging from the darkness like a nightmare come to life. 1,500 pounds of muscle and horn, snorting steam in the cool night air. And then, just as I'd predicted, the panic began. The monitors in the attic showed me every detail as Beatrice's 20 guests completely lost their composure. The transformation from sophisticated socialites to terrified prey was almost instantaneous. When Cloudbreaker, the majestic black bull, emerged fully from the shadows. "That's not a cow," screamed Victoria, Beatrice's best friend, her $2,000 dress already torn in her desperate race for the house. The wranglers, invisible in their strategic positions, kept the bulls in a perfect perimeter, close enough to terrify, far enough to cause no real harm. It was a macabre but controlled choreography. On monitor 3, I saw Alex push 2 women out of the way to get into the main house. My son-in-law, the refined banker, showing his true nature, a coward who would save his own skin no matter the cost. "Alex, you son of a bitch, help me," yelled one of his own partners as he stumbled. Alex didn't even look back. Beatrice had managed to climb onto the hood of one of the Mercedes, her designer dress completely ruined, her makeup streaked with tears, creating black rivers down her face. For the first time in years, she looked real. "Dad," she screamed. "Dad, I know you're in there. Please." Professor, the smartest bull of the group, approached the car where Beatrice was perched. He looked at her curiously, snorted, and then, following the subtle cues from the wranglers, kicked the ground 3 times before slowly walking away. The message was clear. I could attack if I wanted to, but I'm choosing not to. For now. Dr. Ramirez, the physician they had brought to declare me senile, had lost his medical bag in the initial stampede. He was now halfway up a tree, crying like a child, while a spotted bull watched him from below. "Call the police!" he screamed. "There's no signal," someone else yelled back. I had indeed installed a signal jammer. Nothing illegal. My property was so vast, I simply claimed it was to prevent distractions during my meditation retreats. But tonight, it served another purpose. Those who had made it inside the main house discovered it wasn't the refuge they had hoped for. I had locked all the bedrooms, except for the main living room and 1 bathroom. 20 terrified people, crammed into one space, forced to confront each other. "This is your fault, Beatrice," screamed the wife of one of the businessmen. "Your father is crazy and you brought us into this trap." "I didn't know," Beatrice defended herself when she finally scrambled inside. "You didn't know? He's your father. How could you not know he's a demented sadist?" On another monitor, I watched the stable where 5 people had taken refuge. Among them, 2 were particularly interesting. The mayor's son and his girlfriend, both around 25, part of the new generation of social parasites. "If we get out of this, I swear I'm never hanging out with this trash again," the boy said. "They're all just pathetic new money," she agreed. "Especially Beatrice. You can just tell she comes from nothing." I saved that clip specifically. It would be useful later. At 1 in the morning, when the initial terror gave way to exhaustion, they started finding the envelopes I had left. On the living room monitor, I watched Victoria open hers. Her face went from tired to absolute horror. "How does he know this?" she whispered, looking at the documents about her father's fraud. Alex found his in the stable. It contained photos of him entering a high-end brothel in New York, complete with dates and times, dates when he was supposedly in board meetings. "Damn old man," he muttered, quickly stuffing the papers in his pocket. But the most interesting envelope was Beatrice's. It didn't contain blackmail or dark secrets, just photos. Photos of all the important moments in her life where I had been present without her knowing, her graduation from the back of the auditorium, her wedding from outside the church gates, the birth of her children from the hospital hallway, every birthday for the last 20 years from somewhere far away, but present. I watched her cry as she looked at each image. At 3 a.m., I activated the sound system again. "Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying your stay at Oak Ridge. As you've noticed, we have a livestock problem. But don't worry, I've called the wranglers. They'll be here at dawn." "Get us out of here now!" screamed Alex. "I'm afraid that's impossible, Mr. Montgomery. The bulls are very agitated in the dark. It would be dangerous for the wranglers to intervene now. But hey, look at it as a unique experience. Extreme rural tourism. You can tell all your exclusive circles back in New York about it." "You old bastard! When I get out of here, you'll—" "What? Have me fraudulently committed as you planned?" "Yes, I heard that conversation. It's recorded, by the way, along with many other interesting things your friends have been saying." The silence was deafening. "For example," I continued, "it's fascinating to hear what you really think of each other when you believe you're going to die. Mrs. Dominguez, your opinion of my daughter's humble origins was illuminating. Mr. Puertas, your confession about embezzling funds from your company, very brave. Every person I mentioned turned pale on the monitors. But don't worry," I added with false cheer. "I'm a discreet man, unless, of course, I'm given a reason not to be." At 5 in the morning, as the sky began to lighten, I gave the signal to the wranglers. With impeccable professionalism, they began to herd the bulls toward the corrals. The animals, which had never truly been out of control, followed the cues meekly. From the living room, the guests watched in amazement as 20 rodeo bulls retreated in an orderly fashion, as if the entire night had been a performance. "Impossible," someone murmured. "Bulls don't behave like that naturally." "Unless—" another started, then trailed off. The realization was beginning to sink in. They had been manipulated, controlled, played like puppets. When the last bull disappeared into the corrals, I left the attic. I took my time. I showered, shaved, and dressed in my best suit. When I finally appeared in the main courtyard, the morning sun was illuminating 20 people who looked like they had survived a war. "Good morning," I said cheerfully. "I trust you all rested well. Maria, my housekeeper, has prepared breakfast. I suggest you eat up. We have a lot to discuss." Alex took a step forward, his fists clenched. Jack and 3 of his wranglers appeared behind me, silent as shadows. "I wouldn't do anything stupid if I were you, Alex," I said calmly. "These men know how to handle 500-pound bulls. Imagine what they can do with a 180-pound banker." "You tortured us all night," he spat. "No," I corrected him. "I gave you an educational experience. You learned what it feels like to be helpless, at the mercy of forces you can't control. Exactly how you wanted to make me feel in an asylum." I turned to Beatrice, who was staring at me with a mix of fear, anger, and something else. Respect. "As for you, my dear daughter, we have a 20-year conversation to finish, and this time you can't run away." The main dining room at Oak Ridge looked like a luxury refugee camp. 20 high society people, in their torn and dirty clothes, were devouring breakfast as if they hadn't eaten in days. The contrast between the antique paintings, the 19th century oak table, and these muddy supposed aristocrats was almost poetic. I sat at the head of the table, sipping my coffee calmly as I watched them. Jack and his wranglers had positioned themselves strategically at the exits, not threatening, just present. "Before you all start with legal threats," I began, "allow me to show you something." I took out a tablet and connected it to the large screen in the dining room. I began to play selected clips from the 8 hours of footage. First, Alex and his friends planning to have me committed. Then, the confessions of various financial crimes made in moments of panic. Next, the derogatory comments about Beatrice and her humble origins. Finally, the moments of extreme cowardice, like Alex pushing other people to save himself. With each video, someone turned a shade paler. "I have 8 hours of material just like this," I said when the presentation ended, "all in high definition, with crystal clear audio. Imagine what the press would do with this. Beatrice's elite show their true colors. It would be viral in hours." "That's blackmail," said the lawyer in the group. "No, blackmail would be asking you for something in exchange for my silence. I'm just showing you the consequences of your actions, just as you showed me the consequences of being a loving but a poor father." I stood up and walked around the table. "Mrs. Dominguez, you said my daughter didn't deserve to be in your circle because of her origins. Did you know your own father-in-law was the son of a janitor?" "I researched it. He cleaned toilets until he was 30. The woman sank in her chair. "Mr. Portas, your confession about embezzlement was very detailed. I'm sure the SEC would find it fascinating. Dr. Ramirez, coming to my home to declare me senile without even examining me, that's medical malpractice. The American Medical Association has very strong opinions about that. One by one, I revealed what I knew, what I had recorded, and what I could do with that information. But, I said finally, I'm not like you. I don't enjoy destroying lives, so I'll offer you a deal. You leave now, you never come back, and you never bother my family again. In exchange, these recordings stay in my safe. And if we refuse, Alex challenged, then I publish everything, and believe me, I'll survive the scandal. I'm a retired vet from Montana. You? You all have a lot more to lose. There were murmurs, quiet discussions. Finally, one by one, they began to nod. Good. You can go, except for you, Alex, and you, Beatrice. You too stay. The 18 guests scrambled out, practically running to their cars. Within minutes, the convoy of luxury vehicles disappeared down the dusty road. When the three of us were alone, with Jack as a witness, I pulled a folder from my briefcase. Alex, these are divorce papers. You sign them now, or I release the video where you admit to having a mistress for the last 3 years. You don't have a video like that. I pressed play on the tablet, his voice clear as crystal, talking to his friend in the stable. Beatrice is useful for her image, but Maria gives me what I need. 3 years now, and the idiot has no idea. Beatrice gasped. Maria Lozada, my friend Maria. Alex didn't answer. He took the papers and signed them in silence. Now get out, I said. And if you ever come near my daughter or my grandchildren again, this video goes to your bank, your family, and every media outlet in New York. He left without a word. He didn't even look at Beatrice. When it was just father and daughter, the silence was long and heavy. Why? She finally asked. Why all this? Because you needed to remember who you are, where you come from. You needed to see your supposed friends for who they really are. Were the bulls trained? Controlled. Every movement was calculated. No one was ever in real danger. And, do you really have that much money? I stood up and led her to the study. I opened the safe and took out the documents. 30 million liquid. Property's worth another 50 million. Your grandfather wasn't the poor rancher everyone thought. Beatrice collapsed into a chair. Why did you never tell me? Because I wanted you to love me for being your father, not for being rich. I failed. You rejected me when you thought I was poor. Now that you know I'm rich, I'm suddenly worth your time? Is that it? No. Beatrice, you didn't invite me to your wedding. You forbade me from seeing my grandchildren. You called me a disgusting old man in front of 200 people. I'm sorry, she broke down, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Dad. Forgiveness isn't given, Beatrice. It's earned. If you want my forgiveness, if you want to be part of this family again, there are conditions. Anything. First, you move here with the children. Second, you work with me on this ranch for 1 year. Third, your children learn the value of work. They're not going to elite prep schools. They're going to the local public school. Fourth, this entire fortune is going into a foundation when I die. You will only be the administrator if you prove you've changed. Dad, that's fair. It's fair. You had 40 years of unconditional love and you threw it away. Now you have to earn it back. Beatrice looked at me for a long time. I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who helped me with the animals, the one who was proud of her vet father. I accept, she said finally. I accept all of it. There's one more condition, I added. You have to meet someone. I opened the study door. Carmen's twin sister, Isabel, walked in. The resemblance was astonishing. Beatrice, I said, this is your Aunt Isabel, your mother's sister you never knew you had. She's been living up in Oregon all these years. I promised your mother I wouldn't tell you, unless it was necessary. Beatrice stared, dumbfounded, at this woman who was the spitting image of her mother. Your mother and I were twins, Isabel explained, her voice soft. But we had a falling out over a family fight when we were 20. Carmen never forgave me, but she wrote to me before she died. She asked me to watch over you if you ever got lost. Robert called me a week ago. He said it was time. You've been watching me? From a distance, just like your father. The people who truly love you never abandon you, Beatrice. Sometimes they just have to love you from the shadows. Beatrice slowly stood up, walked to Isabel, studied her face. Then she embraced her, crying like she hadn't cried since her mother's death. I walked over and put my arms around them both. "This is your real inheritance," I whispered. "Family, love, roots. Everything else is just money." That night, after Beatrice settled into her old childhood room, which I had kept exactly the same all these years, the three of us, Beatrice, Isabel, and I, sat in the main living room. It was time for the whole truth. "I want you to listen to something," I said to Beatrice, pulling out an old cassette recorder. "Your mother recorded this 3 days before she died." Carmen's voice filled the room, weak but clear. "My love, my Robert, if you're hearing this, it's because you kept your promise to wait. I know Beatrice has drifted. I've seen her in my dreams, lost in a world that isn't hers. But she'll come back, Robert. Our girl will come back. And when she does, give this to Isabel. She'll know what to do." Isabel took a letter from her purse, yellowed with age. "Carmen wrote this to me when she knew she was sick," she explained. "She asked for forgiveness for the lost years, and she begged me to watch over you both, from afar." "Why did you fight?" Beatrice asked. Isabel sighed. "Over a man. How silly, right? I was in love with Robert." I froze. "What?" "I met you first," Isabel smiled sadly, "at that county fair. But I was the one who introduced you to Carmen. I saw the way you looked at her, and I knew I didn't stand a chance. I left for Oregon that same night. I couldn't bear to watch you two be happy." "All these years?" I murmured. "All these years, I watched you from afar. I watched Beatrice grow up through photos Carmen sent me secretly. When she died, I swore I'd protect you both, but without interfering. Until now." Beatrice was processing it all. "So, you've been alone all these years, because of us. Don't look at it like that. I had my life in Oregon. I'm a teacher. I had my school. But no, I never married. Some loves just mark you too deeply." I pulled out the tablet again. "Now I want to show you something else, Beatrice. The conversations of your friends when they thought they were going to die." I pressed play. The voices filled the room. Victoria: "If I die here, just know I always hated Beatrice. I was only her friend because of Alex for the connections." Mrs. Dominguez: "Beatrice was always a social climber. You can just tell she comes from nothing." Alex himself: "I married Beatrice for her beauty, a trophy. I never loved her. Love is for the weak." With each confession, Beatrice grew paler. "But I recorded other things too," I continued, "things you need to hear." I changed the file. Now it was a conversation between two of the older women in the group. "Did you see how Beatrice looked at the house? Almost nostalgic. She must miss her father. They say they were very close before. Pride is a terrible thing. It destroys families. The father seems like a good person, a bit rough but genuine, more genuine than all of us combined." Another recording, this time Dr. Ramirez, talking to himself while he was hiding. "God forgive me, I came here to declare a sane man crazy. For money, what have I become? My father was a country doctor, like this vet. He healed for the calling, not the cash. He'd be ashamed of me." "You see," I said to Beatrice, "even among the snakes there are moments of truth. Fear strips the soul bare." "Why are you showing me all this?" "Because you need to understand that the world you wanted to belong to is rotten, and the world you ran from was real." Isabel stepped in. "Your mother told me something before she died. She said her biggest fear wasn't the disease. It was that you would forget who you really were." Beatrice stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the bulls were grazing peacefully in the pasture. They weren't monsters anymore, just noble animals. "Alex, he lied to me for years," she said without turning. "My friends despised me. My entire life was a lie, and I rejected the only real thing I had. You, Dad." "Regret is the first step," I said, "but it's not enough." "I know. That's why I accept your conditions, all of them. There's something else," I added, "something not even Isabel knows. Carmen, she didn't die of leukemia. I mean, yes, she had it, but she was in remission. She died of sadness, Beatrice, from seeing you so lost. The doctors call it broken heart syndrome. It's real. That last year, after you didn't even tell her about the birth of your son, she just gave up." Beatrice broke. She fell to her knees, sobbing. I killed her. I killed my mother. No, I said, kneeling beside her. The sadness killed her. But now you have a chance to honor her memory, to become the woman she knew you could be. Isabel joined us on the floor. Carmen told me one more thing in her letter. She said, "True love isn't the kind that applauds your successes. It's the kind that holds you up in your falls. Robert held me up in mine. Now, he'll hold up Beatrice's." "Tomorrow," I said, "we start over. I'll teach you the real family business, not just the ranching, but the empire your grandfather built, and we'll do it together, as a family." "And Isabel?" Beatrice asked. "Isabel stays," I said, looking at Carmen's sister, "if she wants to. This house is too big for one old man." Isabel smiled. "Oregon can wait. Family can't." That night, for the first time in 20 years, I didn't eat dinner alone. Beatrice cooked, something simple, spaghetti with tomato sauce, using the recipes Carmen had taught her as a child. Isabel set the table with the tablecloth the twin sisters had embroidered together before their fight. I opened a bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion. "To new beginnings," I toasted. "To second chances," Beatrice added. "To Carmen," Isabel concluded. "Wherever she is, she must be smiling." As we ate, Beatrice told me the truth about her marriage, Alex's psychological abuse, the financial control, the veiled threats, how she had wanted to come back many times, but pride stopped her. "Pride is the most expensive sin," Isabel said. "I paid for it with 40 years of loneliness." "But no more," I said. "No more secrets, no more misplaced pride. We're family. Imperfect, broken in parts, but family." Outside, one of the bulls bellowed. It wasn't a threatening sound anymore, but almost comforting. The professors had done their job. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Mr. Carlson's law office in downtown Bozeman was unusually full. Besides Beatrice, Isabel, and me, there were Jack and 2 of his wranglers as witnesses, Luke Harrison, my lawyer, and surprisingly, Dr. Ramirez, who had asked to be present. "Folks," Mr. Carlson began, "we're here to formalize several very important legal documents." The first was Beatrice's divorce. Alex had signed his part on Saturday, agreeing to claim nothing and relinquishing custody of the children. "An express divorce," the lawyer noted, "must have been a very persuasive separation." "Let's just say Mr. Montgomery found the motivation to cooperate," I replied. The second document was more complex, the establishment of the Carmen Mitchell Foundation for Rural Development. "The foundation will receive 70% of my estate," I explained. "It will be dedicated to giving scholarships to the children of rural workers, exactly the opposite of what my daughter sought, to help those who come from the bottom up." Beatrice lowered her head but nodded. "The remaining 30%, I continued, is divided thus: 15% for Beatrice, but in a trust. She can only access the interest, never the principal, and only if she meets the established conditions: live on the ranch, work in the foundation's management, and raise her children here." "I accept," Beatrice said firmly. "The other 15% is for Isabel." Isabel looked at me, shocked. "Robert, I don't need. It's only fair. You sacrificed 40 years for a promise to your sister. Besides," I blushed slightly, "I'm hoping you'll stay at Oak Ridge. The ranch we need a woman's presence." Mr. Carlson smiled as he prepared the documents. "And the grandchildren? They will have their full education paid for by the foundation, nothing else. They can work for the rest." It was then that Dr. Ramirez asked to speak. "I need to say something," he began nervously. "I came to that ranch to commit a crime. I was going to declare you senile, Mr. Mitchell, for money. But that night, with the bulls, I realized something." He stood up and looked at me directly. "You're not crazy. You're probably the sanest person I've ever met. The world is crazy for rewarding disloyalty and punishing love." He pulled a document from his briefcase. "I drafted this." It was a full medical report, dated and sealed, certifying my perfect mental and physical health. "Just in case anyone ever tries to question your competency in the future," he explained. "It's the least I can do." "Thank you, doctor. But there's something else you can do. The foundation will need a medical director for its rural health program." The doctor's eyes lit up. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you redemption, like all of us." Jack, who had been quiet, spoke up. "Mr. Mitchell, the boys and I want to say something too." The three wranglers stood. "That night you told us your story," Jack continued. "We all thought of our own kids lost in the cities. We want to be part of this. The bulls taught us too, that sometimes you have to scare to educate." "What are you proposing?" "A program, with the bulls. Bring in troubled urban youth. Teach them about respect, work, nature. The bulls as teachers, not as entertainment." I looked at Beatrice. "What do you think?" "I think," she said slowly, "that it's perfect. The bulls taught me more in one night than 20 years in high society." Mr. Carlson had been writing it all down. "So we'll add this program to the Foundation's bylaws?" "Yes," everyone answered in unison. "There's one last document," the lawyer said, pulling out a sealed envelope. "A letter from Mrs. Carmen Mitchell, to be read only when the family was reunited." My hand trembled as I took the envelope, Carmen's handwriting on the outside. "For when the circle is closed." I opened it slowly and read aloud. "My beloved family, if you are reading this, it's because Robert kept his promise and Beatrice found her way back. Isabel, my soul sister, thank you for watching over them. I know it was hard to love from the shadows. Beatrice, my daughter, I don't blame you. The world is seductive, and I didn't prepare you well to resist its siren song. But I knew you'd come back. You are your father's daughter, stubborn, proud, but with a heart of gold under those layers of pride. Robert, love of my life, thank you for not giving up, for loving even when you weren't loved in return, for waiting for the right moment to act. The bulls were a brilliant idea, weren't they? I always knew you'd do something spectacular. Don't cry for me. I lived a full life. I loved and was loved. I had a wonderful daughter who was lost but found. I had a sister who sacrificed her happiness for mine. I had a husband who loved me even in my forgetfulness. My last wish, that Oak Ridge be a home, not a house, that the bulls continue to be teachers, not victims, that the Foundation helps those who, like us once, have more heart than money. And above all, forgive each other, everyone. Forgiveness is the only way forward. I love you eternally, Carmen." There wasn't a dry eye in the office. "One last thing," Mr. Carlson said. "There's a codicil. Mrs. Mitchell left instructions that if the family was reunited, there was an additional gift." He took out a small box. Inside were 3 keys. "A beach house on Cape Cod," he explained. "She bought it in secret 30 years ago. She said it would be the place to build new memories when the old hurts had healed." Beatrice took a key. Isabel took another. I took the third. "This summer," Beatrice said, "we'll go this summer. The kids, all of us, will make those new memories." "But first," I said, standing up, "we have work to do, a ranch to run, a foundation to build, a family to heal." Everyone stood up. Mr. Carlson prepared the final seals and signatures. When it was all done, we walked out into the main square of Bozeman. The sun was shining on the old brick buildings. "Coffee to celebrate?" Isabel proposed. "At the diner where I met Carmen," I added, looking at her. She smiled. "Where I met you both." As we walked, my recovered daughter, my wife's sister who was her living image, the redeemed doctor, the loyal wranglers, I thought of Carmen. Somewhere, somehow she was smiling. The bulls had done their job. The family was reunited. The circle was closed. But really, it was a new beginning. 2 years later. I'm writing this from the porch of Oak Ridge, watching the sunset over the plains while my grandchildren, 8-year-old Carlos and 6-year-old Sophia, play with the sheepdogs. They've changed so much since they arrived here. The spoiled boy who didn't even know how to tie his own shoes now helps with the livestock every morning before school. The little princess who cried if she got her dress dirty now climbs trees and has named every calf born this season. Beatrice comes out of the house with snacks. She's unrecognizable from that sophisticated, empty woman who arrived 2 years ago, demanding everything be prepared for her. She now wears jeans and work boots, her hair in a simple ponytail, her hands calloused from real work. She's beautiful in a way she never was in her designer dresses. She's authentic. "Dad," she says, sitting next to me. A letter came from the bank. The bank where Alex worked had collapsed last year. A massive corruption scandal, money laundering. Everything I had suspected. Alex is in prison. 5 years minimum. The kids visited him once. They didn't want to go back. He's not our problem anymore, I remind her. I know. It just surprises me that I feel nothing. Not pity, not joy. Nothing. Isabel joins us with her ever-present cup of tea. These 2 years have rejuvenated her. The 40-year-old unrequited love has transformed into something deeper, true family. Sometimes I look at her and I see Carmen. Sometimes I look at her and I see Isabel. I no longer know where one sister ends and the other begins in my heart. The Bull Teacher program starts tomorrow, Isabel announces. 20 kids from New York, all with attitude problems, according to the psychologist. The program has been an unexpected success. Troubled urban kids come for a month to the ranch. They learn about the bulls, about respect, about work. Not all of them change, but the ones who do change profoundly. Jack appears on the path with Cloudbreaker. The bull that started it all that night, now older and calmer, has become the program's ambassador. The kids fear him at first, respect him later, and end up understanding him. Mr. Mitchell, Jack nods. Cloudbreaker is ready for tomorrow. How's his health? Old but strong, like all of us. We laugh. It's true. We've all aged, but we've also grown stronger. Dr. Ramirez arrives in his old Land Cruiser. As the Foundation's medical director, he's established 3 rural clinics in forgotten towns. He treats anyone who can't pay for free. Good news, he announces. The Foundation received an anonymous donation of $1 million. Anonymous? I ask suspiciously. Well, the donor asked for anonymity, but left a note. From someone who learned that fear teaches better than 1,000 words. Thank you for the lesson of the bulls. It must be one of the 20 guests from that night. I wonder which one. That night at dinner, Carlos, my grandson, asks a question that leaves us all in silence. Grandpa, why did you let the bulls out that night? Beatrice and I look at each other. We had never told the children the full story. Because sometimes, I answer carefully, people need a good scare to wake up, like when you fell out of that tree and learned to be more careful. Mom says it was the best thing that ever happened to her, Sophia adds innocently. The worst and the best, Beatrice corrects her. The worst because it showed me who I really was. The best because it allowed me to change. And will we change? Carlos asks. We all change, Isabel says. The only question is whether we change for the better or for the worse. That part we decide. After putting the kids to bed, the 3 of us adults sit on the porch, as we do every night. It's our ritual. Tea for Isabel, wine for Beatrice, and a whiskey for me. I've been thinking, Beatrice says. I want to study veterinary medicine. I look at her surprised. Seriously? I'm 37. If I start now, I'll graduate at 43. I'm going to be 43 anyway. Why not be 43 with a degree that means something? Your mother would be so proud, Isabel says. She already is, I reply, wherever she is. A soft bellow comes from the corrals. The bulls are settling in for the night. Do you regret anything? Isabel asks me suddenly. I think about the 20 years I lost with Beatrice, about Carmen's last years that I didn't fully embrace, about the lost opportunities with Isabel. I regret everything and nothing, I reply. Every mistake brought me here, and here is exactly where I want to be. Pride has a high price, Beatrice reflects. It almost cost me everything. But you paid it, I remind her, and you learned. That's what matters. My phone rings. It's Victoria, Beatrice's ex-best friend. Robert, her nervous voice says, I know I have no right to call, but I need help. My father, the fraud, we lost everything. I look at Beatrice. She nods. The Foundation has a job placement program, I say, but there are conditions, real work, a modest salary, starting from scratch. Whatever it takes, she replies, crying. I've learned my lesson. We all learn it eventually, I say. Some of us need rodeo bulls, others need to lose it all. Come by tomorrow, we'll talk. I hang up and look at my family. Another soul in need of redemption, Isabel comments. Oak Ridge is becoming a place for second chances, Beatrice adds. As it should be, I reply. Carmen always said forgiveness was the only way forward. The full moon illuminates the prairie. Somewhere Cloudbreaker and his companions are resting, preparing to teach a new generation that respect isn't bought or inherited, it's earned. Tomorrow, 20 kids will arrive thinking they're tough. In a month, they'll leave knowing they're human, like Beatrice, like all of us. Ready for tomorrow? I ask. Ready, they respond in unison. We get up to go inside. At the door, Beatrice hugs me. Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me, for the bulls, for the hardest and most necessary lesson of my life. You're welcome, sweetheart, but the lesson isn't over. No. Life is a constant lesson. The bulls, they were just the beginning. We enter the house that is now a home. On the hallway wall, a new photo, all of us, the day we inaugurated the foundation. Carmen is there too, in an oil portrait that presides over the living room, smiling eternally. The price of pride was high. 20 lost years, a destroyed marriage, careers ruined, false friendships revealed. But the reward for humility was greater. A reunited family, a found purpose, a legacy established, and true love discovered. The bulls sleep peacefully on the Montana plains. Their work is done. For now. Because there will always be someone who needs to learn that not everything in life comes with a snap of the fingers. There will always be pride to tame, arrogance to tear down, lessons to teach. And Oak Ridge, with its master bulls and its rebuilt family, will be here to teach them. This is my legacy, not my father's money, but the wisdom earned through pain, not the $5 million ranch, but the home we built on its ruins. My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 66 years old. I let 20 rodeo bulls loose one night to teach my daughter a lesson. It worked. And that night, we all learned that true value isn't in what you have, but in what you're willing to risk for love, even if it means unleashing the bulls on your own ranch.